What's going on? What's going on? It's Sep, and today I'm talking about a very interesting concept, which is feeding the grid. Now, this concept has been used before. I want to dissect it and modernize it, put it into our own words, right? What does the grid mean? Think of the grid as your purpose, the business you're working on, the mission you are here to solve for, right? Most likely, you're trying to build a business, you're trying to get that cash flow coming in, but it's not happening. Or maybe it is. Maybe you're uncertain. Maybe it's just you're in the stands and you're watching the game, right? That's a good concept to look at. You're a spectator of the game. You see all these people on Twitter X claiming 18-year-old, oh, I got a BMW M4 Lamborghini, all these beautiful things that you want in your life, right? The goals, the Andrew Tate, they got all the lifestyle, the woman, the cash flow coming in, recurring revenue, everything like that. You want to create the same lifestyle instead of waking up being isolated to one location. So your grid is creating yourself, the mission that you have. And it all starts with the vision, right? That's your grid. That's the electrical powerhouse you need to feed. You're going to need some inputs to set in place, right? These inputs are very diverse, but I broke it down to what it's going to take for you in the simplest way possible to make it happen, right? First one is outreach, right? If you want to feed the grid, one of the main things you want to do when you want to build a business online is to gain traction, get people to set appointments for the mission you have in place. Now, most likely, you're probably in the space of coaching, consulting, or you're SaaS founder because this is the avenues that you're gonna gain traction on. Is online ways of doing that. So you need outreach. You need people to send DMs for you on a day-to-day basic basically like door to door, right? For example, I worked door to door for a long time. My career or in sales started up as that. Before I was doing, you know, 13, 14-year-old trying to collect bottles to book trips for, soccer. That's how we did it. But we started door to door direct sales and then moved up to selling contracts, $3,000 contracts. We did some irrigation and stuff like that. But at a certain point, there was a metric that we had in mind. And the metric was if we knock on 127 doors, most likely we're going to get a deal. And certain times when I worked up myself to a trainer or I was part of a company that was doing training for someone else, I realized this and the car would pull up to pick everybody up. It was about 9 p.m. at night. I'm like, hey, we're at 120 doors down. A few more doors down, we're gonna get a deal. So many times this happened, and the person I was training, their eyes just lit up like, wow, that was amazing. It just feels like magic. So when you do anything, especially outreach, and it feels like nothing's happening, it's not that they're saturated, it's not that the market is down, instead, you don't have your KPIs and metrics in place, right? So when you do these concepts, when you want to feed the grid and you're starting to do outreach, right? You're implementing outreach, you need to understand your KPIs. Now, is that 1,000 messages? If that's the case, beautiful. Keep doing those 1,000 messages. If messages aren't converting, you need to have a data set, a sheet that allows you to keep track of these KPIs month to month. So you can break down exactly where you went wrong. If it's the messaging, you tweak it, do it again. If it's the next step, maybe you're sending a calendar invite when no one's coming onto, maybe it's that part, maybe it's your offer, maybe it's something else. So this is the first step of it, doing anything to do with selling anything online on the meta, right? You got your outreach in place. For example, you're watching this YouTube video. What's going to happen? Are you just going to go buy something that we offer? No. Somebody has to talk to you to get you on a call to lead you to this step. This is where the outreach happens. It's a very important part of feeding the grid, right? The next step is the data sets. Now, data sets are like the insights that come to you, right? You're the person, you're the creator, and to get those data sets in place. Personally, I had to collect some data sets to put this all together, right? It may seem like magic to you if you're someone that hasn't done this in place, but there's multiple hours and multiple type of skill sets that come into play. But I want to break it down and simplify it for you as simply as possible. The first and easiest way to get data sets is not to look at other people of their finished products, is to basically pick up a book, have an idea in place, which is exactly your grid, the vision that you have, the direction you're going towards, and feeding it towards the data sets that you want. So let's say if I pick up a book, it's about generating hooks or something like that. There's going to be certain things that they talk about or certain examples that they give out, right? Maybe about how some advertising companies, Eugene Schwartz created the first father of advertising, right? I could take that data set and I could bring it on to whatever it is I'm doing right now and feeding the grid through that. So these data sets are very important because if you're not providing value, you're not cultivating some type of data set volume, and you're not communicating that, which is the next step, you're not going to be feeding the grid. You're going to be under leveraged, not going to be in a good position, right? So the next area is the hooks. The hooks, like I was saying, similar to that book I was reading, the hook point, right? The hooks are very important. As you can see, this got generated from a similar data set I had very recently, the hooks, right? The hooks is very important. Why? Because it enables you to tweak and test. And the best place to generate hooks is X or Twitter, right? Why? Because barrier of entry is very low. You don't have to get on front of camera. You don't need to have a production. You just test out different ideas and you can generate them very quickly. Again, a really good way to do that is get data sets, read a book for an hour. You could, whatever comes to your mind, write it in a tweet, test those hooks out relating to the niche, the product that you have, and you're good to go. You can generate 10, 15 tweets in an hour, which is plenty to gain traction, right? And build those momentum and build that confidence. Later on, we can scale, we could transfer it into video, we could use it into a podcast, a whole lot of other things, right? But understanding your hooks allows you to understand your message, understands you if the market resonates with you. You get some real metrics, some data is coming in. If people communicate with it, the algorithm might push it, who knows, right? So having great hooks is one of the most valuable skill sets because 90% of marketing is understanding how to tap into the market, resonate with them, right? What captures their attention, all right? The next thing that feeds your grid is very interesting is ROAS, return on ad spend, right? Because once you have all these things in place, you want to have things in the background doing work for you. Like, for example, outreach might be a few hours of the day, right? When you go to sleep, similar to Warren Buffett said, if you want to learn how to be wealthy but be rich, find a way to make money in your sleep. This is why ROAS, return on ad spend or ads, whatever the case is you want to call it, is a very big staple to feeding the grid. Why? Because when you go to sleep, the algorithm, you sprinkle some ROAS on there, return on ad spend advertising, and it goes to work for you. So 24/7, you have an engine, the lights are still on, right? The factory is not being shut down, right? It's a 24/7 grid. So very important part of the grid. The next thing that we want to feed the grid with is distro, the distribution channels. This is very important and one of the biggest reasons, especially in 2022, 2023, that we saw huge uh, some creators that came into the space and blew it up was because of the distro. They understood that if they multiply themselves, they can gain traction heavily quickly, and they got very creative. So having a very solid distribution channel, which eliminates the factor that slows you down. For example, the friction, right? A lot of the people they have really good ideas, but there's so much friction to push it out there, right? Maybe they record a video, by the time they release it, it's already too late, 6 months, 2 months, 2 weeks. The distribution channel is not running properly, and therefore they're failing at that, right? Very high value thing here. This could really blow up any idea very quickly. The next one is the systems and the processes you have, right? When you want to simplify things, right? For example, you have outreach in place. If you have to go from zero to building that and maintaining that, you're going to have a hard time if you don't have the systems in place. This is where systems, any of the thing that we're doing here, outreach, data sets, hooks, ROAS, distro, there needs to be systems in place. For example, the data sets. System one, pick up the book. System two, open the note, start taking notes. System three, right? Hooks, test, go on Twitter, take the hooks, start testing. use GPT, refine it. There's systems in place, outreach, collect data, send data, use different tools to connect with people, make it simpler, right? All these things, very different. There's different systems in place, and maybe there's people running those systems they could replicate. So very important to feeding the grip, systemize it, make it predictable. Next step is talent, right? This one that people shove down your throat, very interesting. But the way I look at talent is people that can capture attention for you. These days, you can get people that do work for you, media tasks, VAs, outreach. Talent right now, the way I look at it is people that have personality. That's the talent that I look for. So in every industry, there's different values that you can look at. Some sectors, people look at coding and software engineers. Right now, the market, obviously, last decade or two, very saturated. These skill sets, they come, people flock to them, they pay very well, right? The whole planet has these skill sets. But personality is the next set of talent that we need to tap into. Now, this one is very interesting because it could be scarce. It could be like an NFT. If someone has that personality, for example, a UGC type of strategy you have in place for your product, market, whatever the case is, you have the benefit in place, right? So we can get that on details later, but the way I look at talent right now is personality, right? The humanization of a person you can bring on board to help you tap into different leverage points like media, right? So in terms of UGC, you want to think, if you don't know what UGC means, research it up. That's one of the ways to grow right now, feed the grit, right? Why is that? Because if you can multiply the assets you're building, if you can multiply the media that you're building right now, right, and you could tap into your distro and expand that even further, that's huge value right there for your channel, whatever you're producing, right? So in the nodes, this is a very interesting one, the nodes, right? The way I look at it, nodes, I look at it as networking, right? For example, a guy like Belmar, a guy like Myron Gaines, all these characters that have certain brands, podcasts, different things. There's a nodes, smaller nodes, bigger nodes, and if you could tap into those nodes, right, and just be plugged into them, you can exponentially provide value to yourself, your audience, and expand yourself. This is why you see people go on podcasts, they blow up, right? Because they're tapped into these nodes, and those nodes have a certain set of information. Maybe you use that information for your own community, and someone else has a different set of information as well. And it's just all connected, right? Like silly, very important. And if you could get yourself to that level where you're tapping into these nodes, right? And you build yourself to be in that position, you're very well. The last one is algo. The algo is the algorithm, right? This one takes masterful set of skills to build, but once you do get to the algorithm, right, you gain traction. Your your messaging is giving value to people, right? You're not getting 20, 30 views, you're getting thousands, maybe more, who knows, whatever the case is. When you're at that stage, you have something organic and it's very powerful. It just feeds the grid exponentially, and then you're in the very good position, right? So, like I said, this video very short. It didn't take me too long to build it because I have systems and processes in place. If you want to also learn how to do this, check out the description below. I would love to help you out, eliminate the process. It took me a hell of a long time to get to here, right? And we want to help your business to get to the same concepts, right? Well, right now we're at an age that, if you're positioning yourself at a place that you're kind of stuck being at the same location, you're not really progressing that much. Maybe you're in a decline. You're maybe in a country, there's a lot of inflation happening. Everything is on the decline. The things that we're talking about here, the concepts of building on the meta online, everything like allows you those capabilities to progress and expand further, right? You don't like the location you're in, you could tap into somewhere else. You don't have to worry about anything, cash flow issues or anything like that, right? So the sooner you get involved, the sooner you can build, the sooner you can get those leverage points, is the better for you. Why? Because the future is in your hands. You have the key. If something happens around you, you don't want to be a part of it, you can go to a better location and be in the favor. Maybe something's holding you down, you can't grow very quickly, right? And you get closer to people with the network. So if you want to be a part of that, Check out the description below. Right now, we have a community called the New Rich, right? Which is the one of the key things we focus on for beginners, right? Versus the old rich. Old rich was, people who had real estate money. The new rich is the people who build online. They have flexibility, freedom, time freedom, all these beautiful things that enable to live a life where before was hell of a lot different, right? So check out the description below and we'll go from there. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next time.